The galaxy was burning with rumors. The great queen of the Celarion Empire was dead, and her two young daughters had vanished without a trace. Across thousands of worlds, every ship, soldier, and spy began searching. No one dared rest, for whoever found the queen's heirs could claim favor, power, or even the throne. From the red deserts of Clith to the silver oceans of Varnus, fleets were deployed. The royal seal flashed on every screen, declaring the search. "Find the princesses at any cost," the message echoed. Planets trembled as hunters and mercenaries began their chase through the stars. But far away on a quiet blue world the galaxy had forgotten. Life went on as normal. Earth's people still worked, dreamed, and fought their small battles, not knowing that alien eyes were now watching them. In a lonely forest at the edge of Montana, a man named Ethan Cole lived alone. He was once a soldier, a veteran of wars humans barely spoke of anymore. His cabin stood near a frozen lake, surrounded by pine trees whispering in the wind. Ethan was fixing the roof when the sky tore open with light. A streak of silver flame crashed into the forest, shaking the ground. He grabbed his old rifle and ran toward the smoke. What he found made him freeze. A small pod had cut a trench through the snow, glowing with strange blue symbols. The metal hissed and cracked as if alive. Inside were two girls, no older than 10 and 13, wrapped in shimmering robes that glowed faintly. Their eyes were large, bright, and full of fear. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his weapon. "It's all right," he said softly. "You're safe now." The older girl blinked, her voice shaking. "Are you human?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I guess I am, and who are you supposed to be?" The younger one clung to her sister, whispering in a language he didn't understand. Then she said in broken English, "They're coming for us." Before Ethan could ask more, the night sky filled with distant thunder. Not storm thunder, but the deep roar of engines. He saw faint lights moving in formation far above the clouds. Something in his instincts told him these weren't ordinary aircraft. He took the girls back to his cabin, wrapping them in blankets. They trembled, watching the flickering fire while he gave them water and food. The older girl finally spoke again, her voice calm but heavy with sadness. "My name is Alira," she said, "and this is Lyra. We are daughters of the Celarion Queen." Ethan stared, not believing what he heard. He had never heard of Celarion, but the fear in their eyes told him it was no lie. He tried to smile. "Well, princesses, you picked the wrong planet to crash on." Outside, the wind howled, carrying strange echoes from the sky. Ethan turned off every light and looked through a narrow window. High above, faint glows moved like searching eyes. The hunt had reached Earth. He sat near the fire, telling them stories to calm their minds. He spoke of old Earth wars, of soldiers who stood their ground when hope was lost. The girls listened silently, heads resting on their knees. In their galaxy, humans were whispered about as dangerous, primitive, unpredictable. But this one didn't seem dangerous. He seemed kind, and his voice carried warmth they hadn't felt in years. As he spoke, Alira watched the flames and asked, "Why do humans fight if it hurts them?" Ethan thought for a moment, then said, "Because sometimes fighting is the only way to protect what matters." The words stayed in her heart like a spark. Outside, machines hummed above the clouds, scanning, searching, hunting. He could almost feel their presence pressing down on the world. He knew danger was close. He went out briefly, covering the pod with branches and snow. When he looked up, he saw a strange shimmer in the night sky, a fleet cloaked behind clouds, invisible to human eyes. Only the faint reflection of moonlight gave it away. They were watching. Narrowing their search zone, Ethan whispered, "You're not taking them." Back inside, the two princesses had fallen asleep beside the fire. Lyra's small hand still held his sleeve. He looked at them and felt something deep, something human. He had seen children die in wars, and he couldn't let that happen again. He loaded his rifle, checked the old radio, and began preparing for what might come. The night stretched long and cold. Ethan sat awake, hearing the distant hum of alien drones scanning the forests. His eyes stayed fixed on the darkness beyond his window. He knew they would come for the girls. But what they didn't know was that Earth had its own kind of warrior, not born from power or bloodlines, but from pain, courage, and stubborn hope. Far above, a commander's voice crackled in alien speech. "Energy signature detected, Quadrant 9. Prepare to descend, the hunt was closing in." Ethan looked at the sleeping girls and whispered, "Stay quiet, little ones, they'll have to go through me first." Outside, the wind rose, snow swirled through the trees, and the stars dimmed under the shadows of alien ships. The galaxy's greatest chase had found its way to one lonely human cabin, and somewhere in the silence destiny waited. The night was silent, but Ethan could feel the danger moving closer. He had seen enough battles to know when he was being surrounded. The alien drones in the sky moved like hungry wolves. Searching the ground with invisible eyes, he checked his rifle, then looked at the two girls still sleeping near the fire. They didn't belong to this cruel world, but now they were his responsibility. When the first light of dawn touched the forest, he heard a faint sound, a low hum that grew louder until the windows began to shake. Ethan stepped outside, his boots crunching the snow through the trees. He saw it, a black metal ship hovering above the frozen lake. It was shaped like a blade, silent and deadly. Figures in silver armor stepped out, tall, cold, and without mercy. One of them spoke through a machine voice. "Human, surrender the royal heirs. They do not belong to your kind." Ethan didn't answer. He simply stared, the wind carrying his breath like smoke. The soldiers raised their weapons. The message repeated, "This is not your fight, human. Give them up." But Ethan had already made his choice. He thought of the small hands holding his sleeve the night before. He thought of every child he failed to save in the old wars, and something inside him refused to break again. He shouted back, "You want them. Come and take them." Before they could react, the forest exploded with sound. Old Earth tactics came alive. Hidden traps, smoke, sharp bursts of gunfire. Ethan had turned the quiet forest into a maze of death. The aliens were trained for wars among stars, not for ambushes in trees and mud. One by one they fell, confused by a man fighting like a ghost inside the cabin. Alira and Lyra watched through the cracks. They had never seen anyone fight like that. No armor, no energy shield, no advanced weapons, just courage, instinct, and the will to protect, Alira whispered. "He's one of them." "The humans from the Forbidden Worlds?" Lyra asked softly. "Will he die for us?" Alira didn't answer, but her eyes said yes, and it scared her more than the enemies outside. Ethan moved through the smoke, fast and silent. He had used every trick from his soldier days. He knew they would send more, but for now he had to buy time. He picked up a strange weapon from a fallen soldier and looked at its glowing edge. It was lighter than any rifle he had held, yet deadly in the right hands. He smiled slightly. "Let's see how you like your own toys." The alien commander watched from the ship. Furious. "Impossible," he hissed. "A single human resisting our forces." He activated the ship's scanner, showing the image of Ethan standing among the fallen soldiers. The commander zoomed in, analyzing the man's face, then froze. "That human, he looks like the one from the prophecy," he whispered. Another officer turned. "Prophecy, sir?" The commander's voice trembled. "The protector from the forgotten world. The one the Queen spoke of before she died, back inside the cabin." Ethan told the girls to gather what they could. "We can't stay here, they'll be back," he said. He helped them pack food, blankets, and tools. Alira looked up and said quietly, "You don't understand what you've done?" Ethan smirked. "Story of my life." Lyra tugged at his sleeve. "They'll kill you." He knelt beside her. "Not if I kill them first." There was no fear in his voice, just tired determination. Moments later, a flash lit the forest. A second wave of soldiers descended. Stronger and faster, Ethan grabbed his rifle. "Stay low," he ordered. He opened fire, his shots precise and fierce. The forest echoed with the sound of battle, smoke and snow dancing in chaos. One of the soldiers shouted, "He's only human!" And yet they fell before his aim, because humans fought with something machines could never understand: heart. In the chaos, a drone recorded the fight. It transmitted the footage across networks, and soon, across star systems, billions watched as a lone human defied an empire. They saw him shield the two princesses with his body. They saw him fight until his arm bled, refusing to fall. The galaxy had never seen such defiance from a primitive species. Some called him a fool, others called him a legend. When the battle finally ended, the forest was quiet again. Ethan stood among smoke and fallen soldiers, his breath heavy. He was hurt, his shoulder bleeding, but he didn't stop moving. He looked at the girls and said, "We have to keep going." Alira stepped forward, touching his arm. "Why did you do this for us?" Ethan looked at her, his eyes tired but warm. "Because no one else would," he said simply, high above the clouds. Alien ships regrouped, the commanders argued. This human must be captured alive. But the news had already spread. The heirs of Celarion were under the protection of a human. The galaxy trembled with curiosity and fear. Ethan Cole had become a name whispered across stars, a human who said no to an empire, and somewhere deep in space, an ancient symbol began to glow again. The mark of the Queen's prophecy. The one that spoke of a protector born from the forgotten world. The hunt was no longer about the heirs now. The galaxy wanted the human. The stars themselves seemed restless across the void. Every empire whispered one name, Ethan Cole. A single human had faced the hunters of Celarion and survived. The footage of his stand had spread like wildfire through the data streams of the galaxy. Billions watched the recording of the man who said no. On the planet of Varth, soldiers gathered around a glowing screen. "This is a human?" one asked in disbelief. "They were supposed to be extinct beyond their system," another muttered. Yet there he was, standing in the snow with fire in his eyes, protecting the Queen's heirs. Even the mercenaries who once hunted the girls now hesitated. They wondered what kind of creature could face an army and still speak with calm defiance. Meanwhile on Earth, Ethan led Alira and Lyra through frozen valleys and empty roads. He knew the aliens would track his every move. He carried his old backpack, his rifle, and the strange glowing weapon he took from the soldiers. The girls followed closely, wrapped in human jackets too large for them. They looked like lost children, but they were symbols of power that could shake the stars. At night, Ethan built a fire under a cave. He cooked beans and bread while telling stories again. He spoke of human wars, of cities that fell and rose again. The princesses listened silently. Eyes wide with curiosity, Alira asked, "Why do humans fight for people they don't even know?" Ethan smiled faintly, because sometimes strangers need to become family if anyone's going to survive. The words made Alira stare at the fire for a long time. Something about humans was starting to change the way she saw the universe. Far above them, the Celarion High Council gathered. Dozens of glowing figures sat around a floating table. The commander from Earth knelt before them, trembling. "Report," the eldest counselor demanded. The commander bowed his head. "The heirs are alive, but they are protected by a human." The hall filled with gasps and murmurs. "A human?" One voice hissed, "Impossible." "They were wiped from the Great Wars," said another. But the hologram flickered to life, showing Ethan's battle. The council watched him move through smoke and fire, his eyes cold and steady. The eldest counselor whispered, "He fights like the Queen herself once did," the generals argued. "Destroy Earth before humans spread," another shouted. "Capture him." "Study him." But one voice silenced them all, an older woman with silver eyes. "The prophecy of the Queen spoke of this," she said. She said, "When darkness hunts her blood, a protector from the forgotten world will rise." The room fell silent. For centuries they had dismissed it as myth, but now it seemed real, back on Earth. Ethan and the girls reached an abandoned military base hidden in the mountains. Old machines slept beneath layers of dust and silence. Ethan powered up a generator and scanned the alien weapon. "Maybe we can use their tech against them," he muttered. The weapon hummed, reacting to his touch like it recognized him. Alira's eyes widened. "It's responding to you. No human should be able to do that." Ethan shrugged. "Guess your toy's like me." Lyra giggled softly for the first time since she crashed on Earth. That small laugh made Ethan's tired face soften. While he worked, the galaxy's networks exploded with debate. Some species wanted to ally with Earth. Curious about humans, others feared them, calling them monsters of chaos. News feeds titled him, "The Human Who Defied the Empire." Rebellions across colonies used his image as a banner. The galaxy trembled, not because of his strength, but because of his example. That night, Ethan sat outside the bunker watching the stars. He could see faint glows, alien ships moving in orbit. He knew war was coming. He whispered, "You girls should have crashed anywhere else," Alira replied. "Maybe fate brought us here for a reason." Ethan smiled tiredly. "Fate doesn't care much about reason." She looked at him. "Still, you're not like the humans we were taught about," he asked. "And what did they teach you? That humans were violent, selfish, and dangerous," she said quietly. He laughed softly. "They got the dangerous part right." Suddenly the ground shook. A beam of light split the sky. A massive ship descended. Covering the stars with its shadow, Lyra screamed, clutching Ethan's arm. He pulled them both inside, sealing the bunker doors. Alarms blared as scanners locked onto their location. The display showed hundreds of ships surrounding Earth. Alira's voice trembled. "They're preparing to destroy your planet." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then we fight back, deep within the bunker." He activated an old satellite link. The screen came alive with static. Then the face of a human general appeared. "Cole? Is that really you?" "We thought you vanished years ago," Ethan said. "Listen carefully, we've got a problem. And it's not from this world." The general's face hardened as he saw the alien signals in orbit. Ethan continued. "Tell command to prepare for first contact. Not diplomacy, defense." The general nodded grimly. "Understood." Outside, lightning tore across the clouds as the alien fleet charged its weapons. The Queen's daughters stood beside the human soldier who refused to surrender. In that moment, Alira felt something awaken inside her, a pulse of royal energy her mother once sealed. The air around her shimmered, forming a sphere of light that cracked the ground. Ethan stared in awe. "What are you doing?" she whispered. "Protecting your world like you protected us." The light spread through the sky, disabling alien drones and jamming their scanners. For the first time, the galaxy realized Earth was not an easy target. Far beyond in the council chamber, alarms rang. "The heirs have awakened their power," a guard shouted. The silver-eyed woman stood and smiled. "The prophecy unfold," her voice echoed through the hall. "The galaxy trembles." And it all began with one human who said no. The world had changed overnight. Every screen on Earth showed strange lights in the sky. People looked up, afraid. While governments argued whether it was war or a dream, in space, the Celarion fleet floated like a dark crown around the planet. Inside one of those ships, the council generals watched the human broadcasts. They saw a man in worn clothes, standing before a bunker door, his rifle across his chest. The same man who defied their armies. They didn't see a soldier. They saw a spark that could set a galaxy on fire. Ethan Cole had become a symbol. His image spread through the networks faster than any weapon could travel. Some called him a monster, others called him hope. But to the Queen's daughters, he was simply the man who never gave up. In the hidden bunker, Ethan worked through the night. He showed Alira and Lyra how to build traps, how to signal allies, how to survive. They were royal heirs, trained in court politics, but not in war now under his guidance. They learned how humans fought, with heart, with dirt and with endless will outside. Alien fleets shifted their positions. Earth satellites began to fail one by one. A countdown ticked in the sky as the Celarion High Command prepared to strike. But humanity was not asleep anymore. Ethan's message had reached every military base. Every secret lab, every nation, he told them the truth. "We are not alone and they are coming, but they can bleed just like us." The message echoed across the planet. And fear turned into determination. From underground bunkers to orbiting stations, humans armed themselves. Old machines were reactivated. Weapons once meant for each other now aimed at the stars. For the first time in history, Earth stood united, the human spirit. Fragile yet fierce, had awakened in the bunker. Alira touched the glowing device on her wrist. Her power flickered like fire, but she struggled to control it. Ethan helped steady her hands. "Don't force it. Feel it," he said. She nodded, breathing slowly. The air shimmered around her as small drones lifted from the ground. Responding to her will, Lyra watched in awe, whispering, "Mother told us stories of a protector from the forgotten world." Ethan chuckled softly. Maybe your mother liked fairy tales, but deep inside, he wasn't so sure anymore. Above the clouds, the Celarion flagship charged its primary cannon. Its energy core glowed like a new sun. "Target the humans' coordinates," the commander ordered. But before the cannon could fire, the ship shook violently. An energy surge tore through its systems. The Queen's sigil appeared on every display. Pulsing in golden light, a calm voice spoke in the ancient royal code. "Do not harm the protector." The crew froze. The commander shouted, "Who sent that?" But no one could answer. It was as if the Queen herself had spoken from beyond death. Down below, Ethan's radio crackled. A human general's voice came through. "Cole, the whole planet's watching. What's your order?" Ethan hesitated, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. He finally said, "Hold your fire until they strike first. We don't start wars. We finish them." His voice carried across frequencies, steady and unbroken. That single line was replayed across every channel, every world. The galaxy now saw the truth. This wasn't just a man. It was the spirit of humanity speaking through him. The first shot came from the fleet. A beam of light cut through the clouds, shaking mountains, but before it could reach the ground, Alira stepped forward. Her eyes glowed silver, her power expanding outward. A shield of pure energy formed above Earth. Deflecting the blast, the night turned brighter than day, then fell silent again. Lyra collapsed. Exhausted but smiling, it worked. Ethan caught her. His heart pounding, he whispered, "You two might save more than just yourselves." In the Galactic Council chamber, chaos erupted. Half wanted to retreat, half wanted to attack harder, but one voice silenced them. The silver-eyed elder who had once served the Queen. She said, "The legend of the Protector is real." The Queen foresaw this, and now the prophecy breathes. Her words spread faster than any weapon. Empires that once bowed to fear began to question their masters. Rebellions flared on distant moons. Soldiers refused to fight. All because of one man on one small world who said no. Back on Earth, Ethan stood before the bunker door as dawn broke. The air smelled of smoke and rain. He looked at the horizon. At the faint curve of blue sky beyond the wreckage, Alira stood beside him. Holding her sister's hand, she whispered, "You've changed our galaxy forever." Ethan smiled faintly. "I was just trying to save my home." She looked at him. "Sometimes saving home means saving everything." The words hung in the air like truth carved in light. Above them, the Celarion fleet began to pull away, their weapons powered down, their engines turning toward the stars. A transmission echoed through the skies. "The heirs are safe, the Protector stands. The war ends." Earth had survived. The universe had watched a human stand against the impossible, and in doing so had rediscovered the meaning of courage. For the first time in centuries, the stars were silent, but not from fear, from respect. The galaxy now told a new story, not of empires, not of bloodlines, but of a single human who reminded them what strength truly was. Ethan looked at the sleeping princesses one last time and whispered, "Maybe humanity finally earned its place among the stars." He didn't know the whole galaxy was listening. His name would soon be etched on monuments across worlds he would never visit. A legend born not from power but from choice. The choice to protect, to defy, and to stand alone when no one else would. The choice that made him the human legend. The war was over. The sky above Earth was calm again. No more lights, no more thunder of alien guns. Only the quiet sound of wind moving through the trees. For the first time in many nights, Ethan Cole could rest. He sat on the old wooden chair outside the cabin he rebuilt with his own hands. The fire crackled softly, throwing warm light against the walls. Alira and Lyra sat beside him, wrapped in blankets, their eyes full of peace. They looked nothing like the frightened heirs who had fallen from the sky. They were stronger now, braver, their laughter lighter. The galaxy still whispered their names, but here on Earth, they were just two children who had found safety. Ethan looked at them and smiled. "You know, when I was a kid, I thought aliens would come to invade, not for bedtime stories." Lyra giggled. "And yet here we are," her sister whispered. "Tell us one more story, human soldier." Ethan leaned back, staring at the stars above. Those same stars that once hid fleets of war now shimmered quietly like watching eyes. He began his tale, voice calm and deep. "This one is about an old soldier who thought he was finished." The girls leaned closer. Their heads resting near his arm, he spoke slowly, each word gentle as the night breeze. He lived far from cities, far from people, just waiting for the world to forget him. But one day the sky fell, and two strangers came into his life, and he learned that no matter how broken a man becomes, he can still protect something good. As he spoke, the cabin lights flickered from the soft power cell the Celarions had left behind. Alira's eyes grew heavy, her breathing slow. Lyra yawned. Clutching his jacket, Ethan's voice grew softer. And those two strangers taught him that courage isn't about winning wars. It's about keeping hope alive, even when the stars turn dark. He looked down and smiled. Both princesses had fallen asleep, their heads resting on his lap. The firelight danced across their peaceful faces. Far above on the Celarion homeworld, giant halls now echoed with songs. Statues of the fallen queen stood beside a new one, the human protector. The inscription read, "To the man from the forgotten world, who reminded us what honor means." Across the galaxy, stories spread from planet to planet. Tales of a human who fought empires with heart instead of power. Children in distant systems whispered his name like a promise, Ethan Cole, the man who said no. and made the stars listen. On Earth, time passed quietly. The governments rebuilt, the people moved on. But hidden deep in the mountains, the human and the two alien girls lived like a small family. They grew food, fixed machines, and told stories under the endless sky. Sometimes, ships from friendly worlds visited secretly. They brought supplies, books, and messages of peace. But most days were simple: laughter, food, stories, and quiet evenings by the fire. One morning, Alira asked him, "Will the galaxy ever forget us?" Ethan smiled, stirring his coffee. "Maybe someday, and that's all right. Heroes aren't meant to be remembered forever." Lyra frowned. "But you'll always be remembered." He shook his head gently. "Not me, kid. It's what we did that matters." She thought for a moment, then said, "Then I'll remember." And that was enough. At night, the stars shimmered brighter over Earth than ever before. Some said it was the Celarion fleet watching from afar. Others said it was the Queen's spirit guarding her daughters. Ethan never cared for those answers. He only cared that the girls were safe, that for once, the galaxy was quiet. One evening, as the sunset painted the mountains gold, Ethan told his last story. He spoke of old Earth heroes, of those who stood alone, of the power of small kindness. Alira and Lyra listened, smiling through tears they didn't understand. When he finished, the sky filled with falling lights, ships entering warp to distant galaxies. He whispered, "Looks like your people finally found their peace." Alira nodded. "Because of you." He smiled. "Because of us." That night, a gentle wind moved through the cabin. The fire burned low, the world silent and still. Somewhere beyond, 1,000 worlds retold his tale. But here, on this quiet planet, it was only the sound of a human heartbeat and the slow breathing of two sleeping heirs. The galaxy had searched for its lost daughters, and found them safe, listening to stories on a human's lap. The protector had done his duty, not for power, not for glory, but for peace, and in that peace humanity's legend was born.